Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the National Constitution Center. It's such a pleasure to see you here. I am Jeffrey Rosen. I am the president of this wonderful institution. The National Constitution Center is the only institution in America chartered by Congress to disseminate information about the US Constitution on a nonpartisan basis. And as part of this wonderful mandate, we have 3 goals. We're the Museum of We the People, and in October we'll be displaying a rare copy of the Bill of Rights. We are a center for civic education, and we are America's town hall, the one place that summons all sides of the constitutional debates that rivet American society and allow citizens to make up their own mind. And in the past weeks and the coming months, we've had such a remarkable and exciting variety of town hall programs. Just last week, we had a debate between Alan Dershowitz and Noah Feldman and others about whether the president has the constitutional power to target and kill American citizens abroad. And the vote initially was no, but after a rousing speech by Alan Dershowitz, the audience changed its mind to yes. Tomorrow, Jeff Toobin from The New Yorker is going to come for a great discussion of whether our Constitution is broken. And in the spring, we're handing out our latest spring mailer. I'm just so excited about this dizzying array of programs, from Justice John Paul Stevens making one of his few appearances, to Lynn Cheney on James Madison, to several books about the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, to the history of the Second Amendment. Here at the Constitution Center, it is constitutional heaven every day of the week, and we are so proud to share it with you. Finally, I'll just say, please do look at our new and redesigned website, constitutioncenter.org. All of these great new programs, as well as our weekly podcasts, can be found on our homepage, and we hope you'll enjoy them as much as we've enjoyed presenting them. My friends, ladies and gentlemen, out of all the topics that I'm privileged to discuss here at the great National Constitution Center, there is none that I'm more excited about than privacy, and there is no author that I've been more looking forward to meeting in person and talking with than Julia Angwin. We are fellow soldiers in the privacy trenches for many years as journalists. We've both written about privacy, and there is no reporter in America from whom I've learned more than Julia. Your path-breaking reports in the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere about the tangible harms of online tracking, and especially the details about how much precisely is being collected and what is being done with it, are unparalleled. You were a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in 2012 because of your incredible Wall Street Journal series on this subject, which revealed for the first time something that many of us hadn't known, which is that, among other harms, people are actually charged different prices online based on the profiles that faceless algorithms create about us without our knowledge or consent. Let me just finally, to introduce Julia properly, note some of her other many great achievements. She is currently a journalist at the wonderful and independent news organization ProPublica. She was a reporter at the Wall Street Journal from 2000 to 2013 and was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize in 2011. She was on a team of reporters that won the Pulitzer in 2003 in explanatory reporting for coverage of corporate corruption. She's also the author of Stealing MySpace, The Battle to Control the Most Popular Website in America. We are so thrilled, I am so thrilled, to have Julia here to discuss her latest book, Dragnet Nation, A Quest for Privacy, Security, and Freedom in a World of Relentless Surveillance. Welcome, Julia Angwin.
Thank you.
We have so much to discuss. I'm going to start with the obvious opening question. What surprised you most about how much companies and the government know about you?
Well, thanks for having me here. I'm a huge fan of your work as well, and a great introduction, thank you. In my book, Dragnet Nation, I decided to take the privacy investigations I'd done at the Wall Street Journal a step further by investigating myself, right? What is known about me, and what can I protect? And so I sought my data from as many places as I could find, which actually was very few places. So for instance, I identified 200 data brokers out there, but only a dozen would let me see my files because there's no law requiring them to. But interestingly, even in that small set of files, it was shocking how wrong some of them were and how right some of them were. So some companies were completely wrong about me. One company said I had never completed college, I was a single mother, and I had a very poverty level income. And that none of those things happened to be true. Other files were incredibly detailed and had every address I had ever lived at, going back to the number on my dorm room in college, which I had actually forgotten. And every member of my family perfectly associated to me, and all sorts of purchases that I had made, including ones I had made fairly recently. So on the whole, they knew a lot about me. And occasionally they knew all sorts of wrong things about me, and I couldn't decide which one actually outraged me more.
Were you surprised by how much Google knew? It was the depth and precision of your searches that surprised me and actually freaked me out a little bit.
So my Google search history was incredibly shocking to me. So since I joined Gmail in 2006, they had been storing all my searches, and that's a long time. And when I started to look at my searches, I realized how revealing they were. They were far more revealing than my addresses, because it was a map of every single day. I would wake up in the morning and I would Google the weather, and then I would Google, something about something with my kids' school, was it open? Then I would look at what article I was researching that topic. Then I would start weirdly shopping for online kids' clothing. And you could just see my mind making its little leaps. And the idea that there was a record of the mental madness that goes on really disturbed me. And I quit using Google search after that.
We'll talk about the alternatives and how you cope with them, but there was more that struck me. You got your TSA records and found that the description of why you were going abroad for a reporting trip was actually reported to private companies and then turned over to the government.
Yeah, this was shocking. So I went to the Customs and Border Patrol and I said, give me the record of my border crossings. That's one of the few sets of files that you can obtain from the government fairly easily, if easily means waiting 3 months and writing letters. Right, with that's a relative standard, yes, right? So it was incredibly comprehensive, and what I learned from it was that the Wall Street Journal, where I was working, used a travel agency which used a system that basically automatically sent some of the internal communications that I had with my boss. I had to fill out a little online form about why was I traveling, et cetera, and my boss would approve it, and that's how my travel would get approved. And just by the virtue of sort of like no one paying any attention, all those communications were swept into the government files. And so when I brought this to the Wall Street Journal, they understandably flipped out, because advanced knowledge of where reporters are going about what story is something probably they don't want the government to have. So they actually stopped working with that travel agency for a period of time until they got it fixed. But it took quite a bit of time. And this is one of the many problems of this data age that we live in right now, is people don't even know where the data is going. If I had asked the Wall Street Journal, where's the data, they would say, oh, it's secure, it's right here, and they didn't know.
The amount of inaccuracies, the glitches, it seemed very hard to get a sense of control and a handle on just how much was out there.
Yeah, it was very difficult to get a handle on it, and I'm sure I don't have a handle on it. I've probably seen some very thin layer at the top of what's really known about me. Because, as I said before, most companies don't have to share it, or even if they do share it, for instance, Facebook let me download an archive of what they had on me. But we know actually from a European who obtained a fuller set of his data from Facebook under stricter European privacy laws, that what I saw was less than what they have. Because his file, it had everyone who he had deleted as friends, it had posts that he had deleted, so it actually kind of kept this ghostly records of things that he thought were gone, whereas the one I saw was a more sanitized version.
Okay, well, we're going to discuss in a little bit the steps you took to protect your privacy, but before we do that, I want to talk through with you a question that both of us get all the time. Whenever you speak about privacy, people say, what's the harm? Nothing to hide, nothing to fear. I'm not doing anything wrong. Why should I care if Google knows my search results? And the great virtue of, one of the many great virtues of this book, is that you enumerate those harms with great specificity, and you give us specific examples of people who were harmed in different ways. Let's start with government surveillance.
Okay.
And you talk a lot about Edward Snowden and the PRISM program, and the fact that the government is collecting the metadata, that is the telephone numbers that we dial and so forth, and the duration of the calls, as well as intercepting the content of some conversations. I'm not a terrorist. Why should I care? What's the harm?
Right, so this is the most common question.
Usually I get it, I'm sorry, but it was a pleasure for me to be able to ask you that question.
Right.
Why are you so upset about privacy? Aren't you, you must be a terrorist yourself, aren't you?
That's right,
Yeah,
exactly. So
what's the harm?
It's interesting, first of all, that we even have this harm conversation, because it's worth noting that in Europe, there's